So.
All right, there we are, live.
Hi.
Hey guys.
There we go.
Yeah. So it's Chime here, and got a special episode for you. And I'm gonna wait a couple minutes for everybody to join in right now because I'm sure everybody's excited for the show and just waiting to get in on this. Let's see, making sure. Yeah, it's live now. Yes. So. Oh, hey, 4 people.
Welcome.
Yeah. Hey guys, feel free to say hi so we know you're here.
Yeah.
Hey Todd.
Hi, Todd.
So,
all right, that's cool. It shows where they're coming from.
Exactly, and that's why I put it up in case we can't read it.
Yeah.
But if you want to look at that, that's fine too.
Okay.
So, we got all this technology going on, so just like trying
I have multiple screens to look at, you guys.
Yeah,
so.
And this is my first time like doing this whole like guests and like having like a little chair to look like almost professional. So, hey, Nicola, Latasha, and Viola and Carla. Yeah.
Oh, Carla's my mom.
Oh, hey, Melody's mom. So, yeah, maybe. So, what do you think about starting at like 6:03?
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
So, but anyway, keep coming in. We got an exciting show for you guys today because, I have a guest. Yeah. So, hey, Carla. So, this is.
Hi, Viola.
Yeah. So Viola is awesome.
Yeah. So funny story about Viola. They're on my TikTok, and they saw me on your live or your advertisement, and she's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, I know you." I'm like, "I know you." It was so weird. Like it was just like a small town.
Yeah. Well, it's also like I find this interesting. Is like when you're like on like social media and like you on somebody like you're doing all these things on social media and people kind of know you but don't know you.
Yeah.
And then like when they like see that like meet you in person live or like when they know somebody who know you, that's like, oh, I know that person.
Yeah.
Like I literally for a while I would have people like come up to me on the streets in Roseburg. They're like, hey, I love this. I know you. And I'm like, hi. I'm sorry I don't know you. But cool.
I had somebody that apparently follows my husband on TikTok that like found me in the grocery store and you're like, hey, you're Tree Trucker's wife. And I'm like, I am. Like, who would have known?
Yeah. So, hey, so Violet, Melodie, say hi. Yeah. It's, I don't know.
So. I love social media for that though.
I know.
Gives you like a cool community that you didn't actually know that you had.
Yeah. Well, also you have some really good contents with regards to your TikTok too. I really love some of your TikToks.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's really real. That's one of the reasons why, wanted you to come here. So
thank you.
Yeah. So
that's my husband. I'm like, I'm probably gonna cry on social media today. But
it's fine.
Like it's good to be honest. Like not here, not today.
All right, let's see who else we got here. Violet, why are you on both? I still have to have lunch with her soon sometimes.
Yes, please. Anytime. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you gotta, follow through. Oh, hey, that's Jessie.
Hi. Thank you. Love you.
So, all right, it's 6:03. Should we get started now that we have 14 people on Facebook? We have, I don't know who on Instagram because apparently I have to put you really far away to get a shot of both of us.
Yeah, I'm going to give Instagram a pre-apology. I can't see all over there at all.
I think that's only like one. So
okay, good.
It's fine.
You're going to have to read it off to me.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, hey, Christina. So,
hi.
All right, we're going to go ahead and start the show now that we got a good number of people. So my name is Chime, and I'm here to do Ask Chi Anything every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. It's a show that, you have any question about anything in this world or anything about me, Douglas County real estate, you come on 6 o'clock, ask this. But today, I'm super excited is because I have Melodie Branham here because we are excited to have a conversation about Black History Month.
Yeah.
And really want to talk more about that.
Yeah.
So, why don't we start off kind of like Melodie, tell us about yourself.
I grew up in Douglas County. My grandparents raised me in Myrtle Creek. Been there majority of my life. I lived in LA for a couple of years, quite a bit of years, and then moved back to raise my family and be with my husband. And my my background is mostly marketing. I recently am kind of working on my personal brand, and my husband and I decided to travel. So we're currently traveling the U.S. I guess it's really stressful because I gave up like all stability just to go travel right now. So that's a little me right now.
Well, tell us also a little bit about kind of like your expertise in your profession, because you mentioned about a little bit about content creation and traveling.
Yeah.
So kind of like, what's your little background? Because there's somebody put on our on the Facebook comments like, hey, what's your background? What's your profession?
I do a lot of marketing, so a lot of content creation. We have GoPro, stuff like that we've done. We've done websites, we've done logos, we've done lots of brand ambassador management. So people that have really large followings on social media to make sure that they are inclusive to all of their followers and not offensive. We work with companies to make sure they're the same. Lots of social media management. That's like my kind of my go-to right now. Lots of social media.
Okay.
So
you mentioned a little bit about inclusivity, kind of like, you want to talk a little bit about kind of like your background in this, because today we're talking about Black History Month, and we'll go into kind of like the nitty gritty about like, what is Black History Month, but like tell us more about yourself in like the work that has been done as far as inclusivity what, like I see some of your TikTok contents, like those are really rad. Like,
so most of the
just
things,
really like, speaking the truth.
Yeah, most of the stuff that I work on that includes Black history or Black issues is normally just what I go through living in a small town. Lots of why don't we do this, or hey, have we done this, or why can't we do this, or why don't I see this here? Lots of that. Also, lots of explaining why things may not be appropriate, why things are appropriate, just having honest conversation. Lots of Facebook. Lots of conversation on Facebook. Having honest conversations that try not to be too offensive,
Okay. Yeah. All right. So how about we start diving a little bit about kind of Black history, and then we could talk more about also like your experiences, and especially like you mentioned small town, Douglas County.
Yes.
And so I have a list of questions. So. And and I know, so anybody who's also ready to like put in some questions, definitely put it in. I will try my best to and have those answer as well. Just we'll probably go through some of the questions I have first, and then we'll process from there. But I saw Jody, you said that what website have you worked on?
I'm currently working on only one website, and it's the Myrtle Creek Chamber website. I work with them, and they're my only website right now. Yeah, that's it.
Well, she's kind of wrapping up your business so you could travel, right?
Yeah, we're just working on us right now. I'm not working for any companies as of now, except for just public stuff with the chamber, because home is home, and I can help out them as much as I can.
Yeah. Gotta take care of yourself. So, all right. So let's dive into the topic of the day. Okay. So Melodie, tell us what's Black History Month.
Black History Month is celebrating, obviously, Black history and the accomplishments of Black humans, what makes Black culture, and really diving into probably the Black history and the culture that is not always represented in mainstream anything, sometimes things that we might not necessarily always hear about. It's just really celebrating that. It was actually, I wrote this down because for some reason, I'm really bad about remembering quotes and all of that. But it was officially founded by Ford in 1976.
Okay.
And
Ford the car or Ford the president?
The president. It was originally founded by President Ford in 1976. I quote, he said, "Seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected in every area of endeavor throughout history." So he wanted to highlight the neglected, the people that may not always be represented in history and in our books.
Okay. So, as far as like Black history, because there are folks who's like, we already see a lot of Black, actors or Black shows and stuff, like but the Black history is still very relevant, right?
Like, very, very relevant. Yeah.
So tell us more about that.
So I was actually just looking into something the other day, and because I like to highlight, I like to learn about maybe things that were created by Black people that I might have not realized were created by Black people. And some of the fire gear that our firefighters use today was created by a Black man. Okay. And he wasn't a firefighter. He was just somebody that thought, hey, they might be able to use this. And things like that are, the reason why we have Black History Month, because we wouldn't have known things like that. You know?
Well, and so like, we already dive into like kind of why it's important, but like, some people also ask, like, is Black History Month really for Black people or Black folks?
No, definitely not just for Black people. I think that unfortunately, other cultures might not know how to celebrate Black History Month, or might not know like where their place is in Black History Month. And support and empathy is like, a really relevant way to do that. It's not just for Black people. I think that knowledge is for everybody, obviously, and we should celebrate anybody as we do in anything else. So why would it just be for Black people? You know, Black people's history, white people's history, Asian history. We all have histories that correlate with one another. So it's not just for Black people, obviously.
Yeah. So with this month, we're kind of almost over, but it's still important to talk about it. And obviously, Black history is not just a one-time, a year kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, how do we celebrate, a month like this? How do we honor the work that has been done? From the folks that's been neglected by, President folks, like, especially for folks who are not Black. Mm-hmm. How do we celebrate? How do we honor? How do we do this?
Acknowledgement. If you're a business owner, maybe take the time to acknowledge the Black people that got you where your industry is. Every industry has its own history. Find out how you got there and acknowledge those people within your business. If you're not a business owner, if you're a consumer, we all buy something. We all know that. Support Black businesses. It celebrates the people, the generations that came from this history. It celebrates the generations. I think that if you personally want to like genuinely do a personal adventure through for Black History Month, sit down and read, buy a book from a black creator. There's so many history books out there that have just kind of been like swept under the rug that aren't in mainstream. Take the time to learn.
You got some books that you can name for us?
I don't have them offhand, but I would love. I have actually a podcast. I have a couple podcasts that will give you Black history, and they acknowledge like a ton of amazing people through Black history. So I can send some of those to you, and maybe if you want to put them up.
Yeah, we'll put some of those podcasts up, after the show, so people could like check that out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to continue with what the questions we have, or do you want to answer one of the questions that just came in?
Totally up to you.
All right. So we have Christina here, and Christina Camacho, and has a question here. Is there a preferred nomenclature? I don't know how to say that word. When referring to African American, is it Black Americans more appropriate, given that not all ancestry for Black Americans is from Africa?
That's actually really true, because my ancestry is Haitian. So that's actually that's actually really good. That's very common. I think it all depends on the person, because the terminology Black, especially in America, there's like a kind of an ideology that if you're Black, then it means that you don't necessarily know where you come from.
Oh,
so right. So for some African Americans, Haitian Americans, Jamaican Americans, it's offensive to call them Black because they're not necessarily Black. So I think that it would really just depend on the person that you're referring to. I think it's not offensive to, if you're referring to the person in general, maybe to look into where they're from before you refer to them. And that's, like,
it's kind of like a pronoun thing.
Yeah,
like ask them before you start, using the certain pronouns.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't, if I'm referring to you, I wouldn't just assume like, oh, I don't know, my Filipino friend, like
I'm Chinese.
Yeah,
I'm Chinese.
She's Chinese. That's just
I actually get that a lot.
Yeah. So I think that if you're referring to somebody and you're referring to whatever it is, whether it's their gender, their religion, their anything, maybe before you refer to that, no. But in common language, I think Black is kind of an overall reference, and that's normally very appropriate because Black history, especially when we're talking about Black History Month, it's that it is what it is.
Yeah. So I hope that answered your question, Christina.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Melissa just joined in.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a very good question.
Really good question.
So continue to bring your questions in, guys. We love to, this is a great opportunity to have, to really talk about this really important topic that doesn't get often, discussed. So anyway, so well, unless anybody else have any question, we'll kind of continue on here.
Okay.
So so you talk about experiences of Black folks and as President Ford said, the folks of the neglect. Like, what are issues that are still Black folks are facing in our country right now that how Black History Month kind of helps highlight and helps maybe continue to do the work to fight better Black folks' life and other, not just Black folks, but just our community in general.
Yeah. So obviously systematic issues are definitely a huge issue in the Black community as it is. I can't speak further. I will not speak for a Black community as a whole. One, because I feel like it's really disrespectful to devoice another Black person's experience by over voicing my own. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I can speak in statistics.
Okay.
So, and not in the sense that I am going to give you exact statistics, but statistically, Black people are more apt to die at the hands of police. We know this; it's a thing. Statistically, Black people are systematically oppressed in numerous ways. The real estate industry has a really dark history with it.
With redlining.
Yes. There's really big things like that, and it still happens to this day, where entire communities were, especially in the 60s and 70s, entire communities were kind of just segregated into themselves and left there without resources, And so generationally you run into generational issues, so as a whole, statistically, those are facts. That's what Black people generally run into, So I think that's our main issues, but I think that each Black person has their own issue, their own. I don't have the same issues that somebody darker than
maybe
me might.
You want to talk about some of the experiences do you have that are kind of common issues that Black folks face in this country, if you're open to sharing.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Because I could speak to the real estate stuff a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So here, especially in Southern Oregon, hearing the N-word, on a regular basis, and somebody not being able to acknowledge the empathy that it hurts,
So tell us more about the N-word, because I don't think a lot of people don't quite understand why does it matter? It's just a word. Why Black folks could use it and why other people can't?
Yeah.
And what is the
so
all of that about?
I think that when you have somebody that has been hurt by something for so long, and
like historically,
abused. So if you have somebody that's been abused by something for so long, however they choose to cope with that abuse and utilize it for themselves and normalize it is their business and not necessarily mine. It is only my job to empathize with them and love them through that.
Okay.
I should definitely say that, especially because people that aren't necessarily in the Black community, not all Black people say the N-word. Like, I want to make that very, very clear. Okay. And not all Black people are comfortable with utilizing the N-word with one another, it's not always a thing. And even if it is, it's not my job to tell somebody how to use their abuse or how to deal with their abuse or how to weaponize that. And weaponizing something that has hurt you for so long and making it not.
Say a little bit more about weaponizing. I don't think everybody, even myself, like, definitely, like how.
So if something is. So I like to use Amber Rose as an example. Okay. Amber Rose was dragged in the tabloids for a long time because she was overly sexualized in the things that she wore.
Okay.
So she started drawing a slut across her in different ways, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, that's awful! Like, why are you doing this?" It was a statement because she's weaponizing the word that has been used against her for so long.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, okay, and now she owns it. She's
kind of reclaiming it, making her own.
Yeah. She's made an entire brand off of it. She's made an entire. She's made
it's kind of like the queer community. Typically, the word queer. Like historically has been a derogatory word, but now the LGBT community has reclaiming that back as a form of kind of empowerment.
Right. And
but only certain folks use it. Exactly. Not everybody use it either. Okay.
Yeah, and it could very easily be weaponized against you, Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot of the same. I think that's that's the weaponizing, like if you take something and.
What about some folks like, my Black friend told me I could use it. Sorry, I don't even know.
I know.
I think I'm sure that people have these questions.
So I think the biggest part of somebody. So maybe between you and your friend, that is acceptable, and it's not my.
No.
It is. It's definitely. I know.
No, I don't use it. I don't ever really want to be around people who use it, and and if my Black friends, like, it's each their own kind of thing. But like, I would definitely not even But I'm just saying, like, there will be people, especially a lot of youth. A lot of youth will use those language because it's a youthful gesture, and especially if they have a Black friend in their crew.
Yeah, definitely. I totally
but
agree.
It's still not okay.
I don't think it makes it okay. I think it's the same concept as any other like word that would hurt somebody. If you know that it hurts somebody, then just don't.
Even if somebody else said it's okay.
That remember how when we were just talking earlier, I said I cannot speak for other people. You can't speak for other people.
That's true.
That person doesn't give. That person can't give somebody the okay to treat me however they want to. That's not
just because they're okay to have that word be used on them or with other people does not mean that's a word that's okay to be used in general.
Right. If they're okay with that, then I completely that's that person's prerogative.
Okay.
If I don't know what they've done to make that okay with them.
Yeah.
But it's not my business. It offends me. Just don't use it on me or around me or against me. Just don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's boundaries. Like that's the whole you're allowed to set personal boundaries, and that is that's that person's personal boundaries. And I think that is most Black person's personal boundaries.
I would assume so.
Yeah, but it's just
and I'm just like unfortunately, this is a conversation that we still need to have to this day. And and I'm glad that you're here to give us.
I think that's a valid question though, because I've definitely heard it in the past, and I'm like, that's fine. But
all right. Well, we got a couple questions here, so let's see. Jody said, "Who are your favorite Black writers?" From Uncle Jody.
I don't read very much, so I can't help you with that. But I can find some that I listen to off of podcasts and off of my Apple Books.
Okay.
Yeah. Not very good with my remembering things like that. Even all my podcasts, I listen.
I'm sure that if we Google top Black writers, we could probably find a top 10 list somewhere.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll put that later. So all right. We also got Melissa saying, "How can we support Black History Month in our business?" So these are folks doing businesses like myself. How can we support Black folks, Black community, and also celebrate or support Black History Month?
Yeah. It would all depend on what your industry is.
Like what I'm doing.
Maybe work with other more. I don't know. For realty, it'd be really hard to do that.
Well, just anybody, anybody who maybe have a shop. If they just have a retail store, what would that look like?
If you have a retail store or something that uses vendors, look into Black vendors. Everything has a Black creator behind, or something has a Black creator behind it in your store. If you do your own homemade things, I've seen some amazing people that do the resin work or things like that, and they've done a whole line of inspirational Black people. I think that's highlighting,
highlighting the work, amplifying the voice,
the culture sometimes without appropriating it.
So what would that look like? Emphasizing the culture without appropriating. What would that?
Using the Black creators' things, not finding a Black creators and then mimicking what they did, as your own.
Oh yeah, don't mimic what they do. Just here, I have this amazing candle. If you guys can see it here, I'll try to put it in front without dropping it. So this is by Mystic Purities. It is a Black creator, a Black woman creator up in Portland. And she makes these amazing candles. I think you have one, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I love mine.
Yeah, so
I think this was a really good way to emphasize, to bring in Black History Month into just anything. This wasn't necessarily business, and you still supported a Black person while supporting a Black person. I loved that.
Yeah, so I not just this month, but anytime you can, shop. About Black businesses that you can. Even in Roseburg here, we have several Black business owners.
Yeah.
Why not try to patronize their businesses? There is a bar that is actually run by a Black man. And it's actually a pretty cool bar.
It's a really cool bar. Yeah.
So if you guys are going there, do we want to say the name?
I'm sure he won't mind the extra business. The Rose downtown. You guys,
Wild Rose downtown.
Yeah, go down to the Rose. They're great people.
He is amazing. Yeah. He's a great guy. So it's so that's a way. It's it's kind of if you want to support Black folks, put your money where your mouth is. Spend the cash in the businesses if you can, and especially if you have a store. If you have one candles from whoever, and see if there's other candles that's from a Black creator, or other people of color creators. So okay, let's see. So, or even more so, how can we support Black community? Okay, we kind of already asked that already. Okay, I wish more of the Black community in our area could have participated in this podcast, so everyone can see their point of views. From person to person. Yeah, I would love to. So, this platform, this is actually, every, Black History Month, it's 1 month, but I'm happy to have more guests on this show. So, so other, folks want to come up on, be special guests, I would love to do
Definitely.
that. So, way to go, me. I'm not sure who's that. So
me, Mel.
Oh, Mel. I was yeah. Let's see what we got. We got
yes.
Okay.
I love her idea to push to include it in the schools. Show pride by hanging up supportive posters, books, and vendors. Agreed.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
and reach out to Black business in the neighbor cities like Portland. Yeah. So
definitely.
Yeah, those are great ideas. Like we love this kind of interaction because
Yeah.
like, Melody is amazing. Like
Thank
in,
you.
Also it's like, she's not the only Black person
No.
in this community, in this
No.
world, obviously. And,
Yeah.
I'm do my best.
Yeah. I think that representation would help a lot because
Yeah.
I think that we come from a very like Western, like country vibed place, like everything, and Black people are in Western too, like, things like that. Representation in our stores, having not having to drive 2 hours to go get hair supplies, things like that. Like representation in our community would be amazing.
You mentioned the supplies. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, I know, before the show, we actually talked a little bit about like, like what are things that like everyday life stuff that Black folks need, but are not quite available here. So like, how do like a store like that, or what is it that we need, or what is it that like would make it more easy? What would make it life for Black folks a bit easier? On a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Our community is not necessarily inclusive when it comes to health and beauty for Black people.
Okay, say more then.
For example, if you have a very common health issue amongst the Black community are things like sickle cell.
Oh, okay.
We don't have specialists here for things like that.
Really?
No. I mean, we have people that will.
Hey, Douglas Public Health Network. If you guys watching this, like sickle cell. Come on.
We have people. We have people that are effective and are I'm sure are great doctors, but we don't have specialists for things like that. Black beauty here is non-existent. In fact, Manira is a really good example of this. This poor girl moved here not long ago. She got here and messaged me and she goes, "Where do I go to get hair?" And I'm like, "Oh."
What do you mean get hair? Like,
So
like...
we use we have hairstyles called protective styles, the big box braids and stuff.
Okay.
Those are protective styles. We particularly wear them in our hair because our hair gets really dry and it keeps our hair safe from the outdoor elements and everything.
Okay.
It also helps it from not having to do it every day. So things like that though, we have to add, we normally use additional hair. We have certain, oils and stuff that we utilize as Black people to keep our hair healthy.
And you have to drive 3 hours to Portland for that?
Not so much if we need the additional hair, we typically drive to Portland. There's a place in
Salem or Eugene?
There's a place in Eugene that was offering it, but it's a little hit and miss. Yeah, that's pretty common. We typically
extensions.
Yeah. No,
Black beauty, shea butter.
Yeah.
Wait, we don't have shea butter here?
We do. We got shea butter, but not like
no
black products.
Like
okay. Culturally, I don't know if it's this way in like Chinese culture. Like
there's nothing here in like really Chinese culture. I gotta go to Eugene just to get my red envelopes. Or like my certain kind of incense for like my altar and stuff like that. So,
exactly. So just culturally,
like actually do my grocery shopping. That's not like like. It's really interesting. My first like kind of culture shock is like I just want bok choy, and it's really random. I just want bok choy, baby bok choy, and they're a little tiny, like maybe like 3 inches and stuff like that.
I throw a whole fit about collard greens. I get it.
Yeah, and for the longest time, nowhere in Douglas County I could get that. Sherm started to do that, but Sherm started with like the big, but they do like a baked bok choy, and I'm like, that's not the bok choy I'm used to. I know, it's just vegetable grocery shopping.
Yeah.
So so I was going to Eugene for a lot of my Asian grocery shopping. So I totally get it.
Yeah. No.
So collard greens and what else?
Yeah, things like that. Just they're not. It's not like a normal.
Well, also it's like we talked about a little bit briefly. It's like. For someone who grew up in a mixed family, like a Black child who grew up in a mixed family, who might have a white parent, and the other, but then it's like typically where it's more of a mother's job to do your hair.
Yeah.
If your mother is white, and your child is Black, it's a complicated experience.
I was braiding hair for people just recently too. I braid hair for people like regularly because
for the kids.
Yeah, because that's really common. There's just not anybody here, and it's not necessarily like the mother's fault. You know, that it's complicated. I know Black people that can't do their own hair. Like it's complicated. It's not always easy. You know, so.
You grew up in a mixed family yourself. Yeah. Like you told me about the story about getting sent to like what, Tennessee?
Yeah, we flew to Tennessee because I really wanted straight hair because it was just easier. I grew up with friends that had straight hair. I just wanted straight hair. So, and for most Black people who grow up in Black families, that's just a perm. Like it's something simple that they do in their bathroom. It's not that big of a deal. But here we couldn't find anybody that did stuff like that.
And your family don't know how to do that?
No, and that's chemicals. Like you don't just put like chemicals on a child's hair and just hope that it doesn't burn or, like, yeah. So we would do like it's called Just for Me or something like that. It's kind of like it's a store-bought version, but it wasn't like the real stuff. So yeah, we flew to Tennessee because my aunt was there. We flew out there and we went to my first Black salon. And
how old were you?
I think I was in junior high, probably 8th grade, I think, or 7th or 8th grade.
8th grade, living in here in Douglas County, right? Mm-hmm. And you had to go all the way to Tennessee to get your hair done.
Yeah. Wow. That wasn't, especially then. You have to remember this was the 90s.
Yeah, and then you couldn't even go to Portland or anything. Like there wasn't even like that.
That wasn't like really heard of, and especially for this brings on like a whole nother topic that I don't know if you're like really is if it's necessary, but for white families especially, and for black families in this area, it's not always safe for black people just to reach out, so if you're a mom with a white or with a black child, like, and that's all you have, how do you start that conversation with a black person? Like, how do you say help? And then as a black person with that already has maybe their guard up, and I mean, this is the 90s in Douglas County, as a black person that already has their guard up, how do you start that or how do you relate to that conversation? I don't know. It's just it was different then. It was
because like Douglas County has a pretty long history of white supremacy, and even what was like the KKK had a big chapter here for. I heard like they finally like they were still here like in the 90s. Was it?
Yeah, something along those lines. As far as I've heard.
So I could get like like especially back then like it would be hard to like reach out. Like but now like there seems to be a little bit more openness to reaching out. Okay.
I think I'm not as I don't know. I think that it's easier now because people have like a connection, but I can't really speak for that because I always tell people like I'm really privileged in where I am because I grew up here. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I think I told you this before, like this is my safe place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I told my husband that too. Like this is my safe place. This is my community. Like kind of knows me.
Yeah.
And a lot of them follow me or have heard of me or or something, or I've heard of my family. My family's been here. Yeah, my family's been here for a really long time. So I'm kind of safe here, like this isn't.
But that's not the experience of every black person here.
Yeah. So that's not the experience for every black person. So I really can't say if it's changed or not because for me it has, but I've been here for a really long time. So I feel like that's not fair for me to say that,
Okay.
Yeah, that does. I don't know if it's changed.
Huh.
I don't. Yeah.
So right.
Yeah.
What to think about.
If someone isn't from here that is listening, I don't know. Is it harder for you guys to find like?
Well, you say Myrna, right?
Manira. Yeah.
Sorry, Manira is new here.
Yeah.
Like she felt like she could reach out to you, right? Did she felt like I don't know if you feel okay about speaking of on that Manira, but.
Yeah, that's my nana that raised me, the Blivens there. She said, yeah, we had my hair done in Medford one time. It took 12 hours and it was so expensive, like very, very expensive. And it took her 12 hours.
Wow.
And if I remember right, it did not last very long. It did not last very long at all.
Yeah. That's
but yeah,
good.
in all fairness, I don't know. It'd be really interesting.
On collard greens all the time. In Safeway Organics, there's baby bok choy. Yep. Let's see. Okay. I got either crazy looks or people are very friendly.
Very friendly.
It's kind of interesting. So
Very
let's talk a little bit more about like experiences of being a Black person, or just for you, like here in Douglas County, because somebody actually did mention asked a little bit about Southern Oregon, and and we talked, and we very little brief history of like the white supremacy, but obviously like people are like, hey, there's Black folks walking around, there's like Chime and this stuff, but they're still not quite there yet.
I found an explanation the other day that it wasn't about Southern Oregon, but I feel like it fits Southern Oregon very well.
Okay.
There are statistics out there that over generations, Black people have had numerous issues due to the generational trauma, right?
Okay.
So for Black people, generational trauma has caused all sorts of, generational issues, whether it's alcoholism or whatever it is within certain generations amongst families, right? And they have tests on this. There aren't any same tests for how much racial issues through generations decline or don't decline. Does that make sense? So say grandpa is incredibly racist, does not like anybody of the other color. There aren't necessarily like studies showing that
the
grandchild wouldn't have those same generational issues.
Why is that? Because it's interesting. There's study about the generational trauma of like Black folks and such like that. And then you have people like like that's in the past, get over it. But then there's not conversation about how like generational bigotry essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, because like I know for myself, like I like you have the ones who like the grandpas really bigoted. Them now are not as bigoted, but there are still some. There are still limited knowledge and experience of like queer issue or issue related to like people of color.
Yeah.
Like I feel like very often here in Douglas County, I am literally the first, the only, and might even be the last queer person of color, like openly
I totally understand that.
Queer, openly like non-binary, as a brown person. This is part of their first interaction, might even be the last interaction with somebody like myself.
I understand that.
And so I'm like, okay, I come from that like empathy. It's like, this is your experience. I can't fully like judge you if this is your limited experience.
Yeah, exactly. So that is Southern Oregon kind of in a nutshell. Like it's very you can tell it was very generational, and that's understanding. And I had a beautiful Black woman, a friend of mine, say, I actually feel really bad for people that are just like inheritedly racist, because it must be really, really scary for the entire world to be one way and agree with you, and then it shift and you not be able to not, like, you still be stuck in that mindset. Does that make sense? Like that must be really scary.
Yeah.
So things like aggression or, things like that, like that's understandable, because like the whole world just kind of like agreed that this is obviously bad, and they can't, and that's really hard to get past, like something that you've been taught by people that you respect, your grandparents,
and sometimes people don't even think that what they're doing is a bad thing. You know, like it's just a part of the conversation, the language, and they might not even think like Black folks, Asian folks are bad people, but that's how all the conversation and language and the beliefs come from. And it's so very small. Like I think like also another thing about like Southern Oregon and Douglas County is that, and well specifically really Oregon, is that historically there's been specific legislations, and that goes into kind of little real estate, is that to really prohibit and ban Black folks and other people of color, mostly Black folks, from living in the state.
Yes. Yeah. It's incredibly hard. Up until you'd probably know the time frame better than me, but it wasn't all that long ago. That's a really hard thing, a really big conversation for here as well, because I think a lot of the pictures that locally get shared a lot in the area are black and white pictures, and that's kind of like that's a big issue in America in general. A lot of like the pictures of segregation, the pictures of slavery and stuff, they're not in color, and a lot of them could be genuinely, like, they could be in color because there was color photographs back then, So the idea that it was a long time ago for people, I think is still a really big issue, because it wasn't a long time ago.
Well, even just like, in these like laws that like it was implemented. I don't remember the specific date, but it was implemented and was like, in all technicality, is still in paper in a lot of the deeds of and a lot of the deeds and a lot of the property description, conveyances and things like that, and like and it just it's not part of the law to go through and get rid of those because there's been like actually like documents where like this neighborhood must be black or must be white or this and that, and there's also like sunset laws back in the days, like if the sun the sun goes down, you better not be around.
There's still that. I mean, there's apps that just came out within the past like couple of years for black travelers that are essentially sundown towns, but they might not always necessarily be like, hey, they're gonna like crucify you in the street or something crazy, but they're, hey, don't always feel comfortable in these areas after dark if you are a person of color. It's an app that came out. It was just within the past couple of years. The reason why I know is because when we decided to start looking up traveling stuff, I'm like, we're gonna be traveling down to Tennessee. Along the way, like there's some places that we might not want to stop, just because.
Well, back in the 50s, 60s, back in the days, there's the Green Book.
The Green Book,
The Green Book essentially
the Green Book is an app now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so tell, like, I don't know, like I could say more about it.
Go for it.
Well, the Green Book essentially was this guide that were for Black folks when they were traveling through the country, that these are areas that are safe to travel to or take a break or go to the hotel or whatever. Like it's almost like the modern-ish version of like the Underground Railroads. Like like these are the places you want to stay in a hotel, and these are places you don't. And it was pretty like important to really look and use that. And that's not the movie. The movie Green Book does not no justice in that. Actually look into what the
actual Green Book. There's an app now. It's for a lot of I'm on TikTok, you guys, sorry. A lot of trucking TikTokers, like black truckers, use the Green Book app.
Why do you think that we still need the Green Book? Why do you think we still need an app to tell us like where is a safe place to be or where might not be a safe place? Like because I'm sure a lot of people, like especially on this show right now, it's like, hey, like you're here. Why are you saying this is like there's unsafe places around?
There's not. A really good example is my husband and I stopped on a coastal town a couple of years ago, and we went into a thrift shop. There was a rebel flag outside, but for Southern Oregon, like that's not a huge red flag for me, unfortunately. It's just not, So we went in the shop where it was a public business, and we got probably halfway in the door, and the guy goes, "Where'd you buy her from?" And he's like, "I'm waiting for mine to come overseas."
Oh my goodness! Somebody actually.
And if I was in my own element, if I was home, we all know if you follow me on TikTok or anything like that, we know that I'm not necessarily quiet about that. I'm really good about, hey, that's rude. But that wasn't home, and
it was here in Oregon Coast.
It wasn't necessarily home, and that's I'm a female. I'm with my husband. We're I have no idea what could happen to us. We're in this man's establishment. You just kind of just nod and slowly back away, like, oh, I like your stuff here, and slowly make your way out, and then get in the car and like, what the heck just happened,
and also the microaggression that you experience or we experience as people of color.
It's
not like people aren't right now going out all their way to like lynch us. But those conversations,
No,
those comments are like what
the idea that I was
really
a commodity kind of like makes the back of your, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. So like
it's like,
I'm
where is this leading to?
Yeah, like I'm officially like what I'll trade you this cup for for that cup. Like it's
well, or to people who think that those comments or those jokes are still even okay to say.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, whether 100 or whether it was 100 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, as a 31-year-old woman, if I'm telling you this is inherently really racist and it offends me, it's because I probably know if it's, I've been through enough racism in my life to understand that that was really offensive. And as a human, we think, oh, I'm sorry, and we backtrack and empathize with that. There's certain things that you probably go as a non-binary person that are really offensive that I personally cannot say like I know what that feels like because I don't, like that, and it would be really rude for me or to just assume like call you names and just assume that you'll just have to get over it. Like that's just not fair, Yeah, it's just not. So
yeah. Sorry you had to go to that.
No, but
but those are the experiences
that's
that
just something that like you go
that's
through.
What Douglas County, like here in Douglas County in Southern Oregon, here in Oregon, that a lot of folks still face, and that's kind of a reason why it's important, like to have these conversations. And I'm really honored to have you here to have this conversation with us. So
yeah, pretty much what Manira said. Like there's still so many issues that it's apparent that we're going to have it.
But thank you, Manara, like for sharing a lot. Like it's really helpful and a really important topic. And so we got 9 more minutes. Let's see. See what else I got. So the question I have last, and anybody else, definitely welcome to bring in any other questions you have, is what can we do as a community to make spaces more welcoming for Black folks and people of color?
Include the representation's a big deal. If we're walking into somewhere that we already don't look the same as the people around us, and the advertisements around us also don't look like us, the conversation around us doesn't like isn't inclusive, then we won't feel included.
Well, for let's just say people, this might be the first conversation about race. What would inclusivity look like?
Not utilizing the N word, not utilizing vulgar ideology around black culture, just including Black ideas when it comes to Black topics, listening to your people of color, your friends of color. I don't know about you, but I sometimes, for me personally, the issues that I'm facing daily just weigh on me sometimes. Like
it does.
I'm exhausted from constantly either arguing with not necessarily arguing with somebody or like defending why I feel a certain way about something.
Well, we talked about this one experience that you had, and if it's okay to talk about like at the Elk Lodge.
No, the bar
the bar.
The bar that I was at. The guy that was saying the N-word then defending.
But there was another time that we actually were chatting just off camera. The Elk Lodge. When you wear blonde hair versus not wearing blonde hair, like how that it's like kind of like for us in a community, like why do we need to dress up? And so like maybe like in the spaces like those, like instead of like actually hear us when we speak, no matter what we look like.
Yes. Yeah, definitely that. Hearing me no matter what it is.
Yeah. You want to say a little bit about that particular experience, if that's okay?
Kind of. I probably won't. Yeah. So okay. I was a part of, or I am a part of a lot of spaces that include a lot of male white representation. Okay. Yeah. And during those male white representation spaces, I am heard and understood and like very apparently respected more for what I'm saying at the time if I wear my blonde wig.
Versus just wearing your natural hair.
Wearing my natural hair
That's just really boggling, like how something like that. So like, so like in our community, we should just like not have like, should just see past that.
Yeah. So what my husband said is really big.
Seeing color and appreciating it. Oh, yes.
So a really big thing that I hear on a regular basis is I don't see color.
Okay.
I want, like, you want people to see, like, you appreciate that you're Chinese, right? Like,
I appreciate I'm Chinese. I'm a person of color. I'm a queer person, like, acknowledge who I am.
Acknowledging it. Yeah. Like, I feel like
see who I am.
Yeah. Not acknowledging it is just kind of like doing a disservice to you, or like just assuming that we all have to be one or all the same. And I think that seeing the differences in people, don't say you don't see color. It's just, so I think that that's a really easy way for people in the area to like bring more, inclusivity is by recognizing the diversity.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, how to do inclusivity without being performative? Like, because I think I feel like sometimes where like there's always like, hey, we need more of this in this space, but it's really like, but we don't really want to hear you. Like we just want you to add to the number.
Like the idea that the company hires a Black person just because it looks good on the paper.
But then they really don't want to hear from this person. Like I feel like that sometimes in queer community, in queer spaces, where like, hey, we want more people of color. We want, more, or I'm not a trans person, but they were like, oh, we want more trans representation. And then when that happens, and it's kind of like, we actually don't want, like, we want you here, but we don't really want to hear you. We want to still make sure we hear still up here.
I think a really good way that like both that people can catch themselves by not being performative are when they say things like, it's okay, I have my best friend's Black, or
don't say that.
Like it's okay if I, or like if you say something and the person's like, that was offensive, and they're like, oh, but it's okay, I'm not racist, my best friend's Black. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like the N word.
Like or if you say like not being performative in that sense, like you might not necessarily actively dislike the person, but don't utilize that your Black friends is just to keep them around so that you can say you have Black friends
as like a trophy.
Like acknowledge them, learn about them, like it's like
I'm a good person badge.
Like learn about their culture. Like I have a friend that like on Black History Month, she gave me something a couple of like last year, I think it was, she gave me something for Black History Month. And that was like the most non-perform, like just like she wasn't being just performative and doing whatever. Like she genuinely thought about me, took the time, like that. Does that make sense? Like that's genuinely saying, hey, I see you. Yeah, I see you. Happy Black History Month. You are my only friend like this. And I, that was acknowledging, I think that's a really easy way for people just to be like, hey, I know that this is I think I told you about the little girl that she was kind of being a bully. And I said, it's probably because she's having a really hard time. And I was like, so maybe as a friend, just say, hey, like, I see you, or, that's non-performative. That's a way to like support your friends of color.
Yeah. So that's how we could do, like more for, welcoming. It's just support, friends of colors, queer friends, like a Black friends. Oh yeah, don't tokenize them. Don't
tokenize. Tokenism. Don't tokenize them. And we need to see color. See it. Like I think that's really important to say, like, I see you.
And also like really see, like, just because we talk about privilege and oppression does not make people a bad people. It's just recognizing these are how our institution and society have set up, and then recognizing how we benefit or not benefit from it.
Absolutely.
And then figure out how we could, utilize these benefits to support each other.
Definitely. Earlier we talked about some of the things that Black people as a culture we run into, or like our issues that we have from current issues. One of them is colorism. So colorism is a big issue in the Black community, because people like me that are light skinned had different privileges during slavery than darker skinned people.
Okay.
I recognize my privilege as a light skinned person within the Black community, and I utilize it. Does that make sense?
Does make sense. Yeah.
I use it to.
So how do you utilize that?
So a couple of months ago, there was a big thing about Nick Cannon, because all of
Okay.
I know this is like just one example. There was this big thing about Nick Cannon, and all of the people he's with have always been light skinned, things like that,
Okay.
and it blew up into this big ordeal on TikTok and everything else. I think that taking that and saying I stand with my darker skinned people, like just the same way that a white person would do for just a general Black person. I stand with my darker skinned people. I'm not better than them, having that conversation and putting a halt to it when it happens, I think is really important.
Yeah.
I have people that make comments, that they think that, like, oh, you're a nice, pretty light skinned person. Like, no, I'm pretty or I'm not. Like, I don't need to be light skinned. Like, that's not necessary.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's important to have that conversation when it happens, and I make sure I do that as a light skinned person. Like, don't utilize my skin tone. Like, we're Black. Like, Black is beautiful in all shades. And colorism is a really big issue.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, we are 7:00, and I want to honor Melodie for being here and for spending her time to talk to us. And I know this is a lot, and so thank you for everybody for participating, for joining us, and I hope to have other people in this show to talk more about different topics. But DM me, give me your ideas and stuff. So yeah, and well, thank you for everybody for being here. Hey, Ariel. Thanks for joining. So we're gonna wrap up, and we'll see you guys next time.
This was fun. Thank you, guys.
On racial trauma versus racial conditioning.